tomorrow, Stamps Riders, Mosaic Stadium. Joining us now on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Perfect pizza, generous amount of toppings. It's an awesome night for Western Pizza, or the Greek favorites you like, souvlaki salad, lasagna. From QR77 Sports, he does the pre- and post-game show for the Calgary Stampeders, Jock Wilson. All right, Jock, thanks for taking some time today. Let's put the Riders and Stamps on the shelf for a second here. Let's talk Calgary Stampede. I'm trying to go through who's doing what's going on. There's some Sasky competitors doing a heck of a job. How do you wrap up what's gone on so far at the Calgary Stampede when it comes to the rodeo?
Listen, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell the Calgary Stampede is. It's the greatest outdoor show on earth, but it has turned into more of a music festival, a party festival with the rodeo and, of course, the chuck wagons, and you got the agricultural component. We had 190,000 people go through the gates on Tuesday. That is ridiculous. It's way too many people, not for me. But I must admit, Barney, I do love a little rodeo. I do love a little chucks. Not every single day. It's not my cup of tea every single day. But I will go take in an afternoon rodeo session. I will take in the chucks, once a year during the Calgary Stampede, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good entertainment. I'll be honest with you. I've been watching a lot of Sportsnet with the Chucks because there's not a lot of other sport going on. We got hockey, we got on hiatus. The Blue Jays are doing well. We got football we're going to talking about, but no, I do watch the Chucks on Sportsnet, and it's interesting because you got Chance Vegan. He is the king right now when it comes to the Rangeland Derby. Jamie Laboucaine, he is right on Chance's heels, and then those guys are set. They're set in stone. And then it's the battle for the third spot. And the third spot gets you in the dash for cash on Sunday night. Is it going to be Ray Croteau Jr.? Is it going to be Lorgan Ghost? Is it going to be Gorst, Is it going to be Aubrey Montewillo? Is it going to be Chad Fike? Is it going to be Jason Glass? Flip a coin because, there's only like a second and a half separating, those five competitors right now, and there's still a couple of nights left before we get to the dash for cash. But here's the deal. We're on the home stretch because it is now day 7 of the Calgary Stampede, and on behalf of so many Calgarians, I will say, thank God it's almost over.
Yeah, no, it's I've only been once. It is such a battle. So do you feel this year that you mentioned the number that came in on Tuesday? Do you feel this year they're gonna blow the attendance out of the water, and if so, why?
That's a great question. And, I think it has something to do with what's going on politically. People aren't traveling to the States anymore, so they're keeping it in Canada. So you're seeing a lot of Canadian visitors, exploring. You're seeing a lot of visitors from Europe. And, hey, our Canadian dollar is still so weak against the American dollar. Lots of Americans are coming in to enjoy it as well. We saw a dip, obviously, during COVID, and, it wasn't very well attended. But people have a little bit of disposable income, and they want to get out. They want to have some fun. But I will warn you, if you're coming to the Calgary Stampede, bring some cash because it's not. You can take advantage of some of the cheap days. Like on Tuesday it was Seniors Day. Everybody who was a senior, 60 or over, you got in for free. Also, any military personnel got in for free. So those numbers are skewed a little bit. So you have to look for the bargains, look for the free breakfast, all that kind of stuff. But if you're going to the party tents, if you're going to be spending money on the midway, if you're going to be eating any food in the midway, bring your credit card because it's going to cost you some cash. I'm going
to dispute you on the not going south because we went down to Whitefish about a week and a half ago now. We crossed south of Cardston there, that lineup to get into the good old US of A. Okay. I was like, hey, where's all these elbow up people? I want to fly through here. It wasn't the case, buddy. No, and then just looking like tonight. Okay, so tonight, the one thing I want to ask you, because I'm kind of dense on this, like I said, I was talking to a buddy the other day, and he goes, oh, Rangeland. And I'm like, Rangeland? Like, what happened to chuck wagons? He's like, it's the same thing, dummy. And I'm like, okay. But I look at tonight, because I know from Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan, former NHLer, and then brother of NHLer, Dwight King, DJ King, is going tonight, and also from Saskatchewan as well, from up north a bit, Kurt Bensmiller. So it says day 10 barrel draw. Like, what does barrel draw mean, Jock?
Well, they've got a situation where, and the Rangeland GMC Derby used to be so much better when there were 4 wagons on the track, and there was true stoves that they had to put into the wagons, and they had 4 outriders. I get it from a safety perspective. They've shortened the field to just 3 wagons. They have the first barrel, the second barrel, the third barrel. There's only 2 outriders. It's not nearly as exciting as it used to be. It may be a little more safer, and I think some of the animal rights activists probably appreciate that, from that standpoint.
Yeah.
But hey, it's still part of the history of the Calgary Stampede. You talk about DJ King. DJ King, his sponsor is Valentine Volvo, and being the former NHLer, I think there was a lot of excitement around him. He's going to win the Rookie of the Year award because he's the only rookie competing this year. So that's I don't think he ever won the Rookie of the Year award in the National Hockey League. I might have to double check that. But he's had an okay Stampede. I think he's sitting 21st overall in the aggregate standings right now. The Benz Miller family. Geez, what can you say about the Benz Miller family? They've been around for forever, and whether it's Kirk, or I think it's also there's another Chance. I think there's 5 chances in the Rangeland Derby. So if you have a son and you're a rodeo cowboy, you name them Chance, and they have a good chance to take part in the Rangeland Derby.
There we go. Yeah, the animal rights activists for sure. I know those people weren't in line to get down to the USA. I can almost guarantee it. All right, let's shift to the CFL and your Stamps. You do the pre and post for the Calgary Stampeders at Mosaic tomorrow night to take on the Riders. Is that game last week? Luke Mullender, he said no, Barney. Stamps are for real. Arash Madani, a little bit on the fence. I've been talking to guys. I think this is the game that either the Stamps are a fugazi, or I'm really going to start buying Stamp stock on how they perform Friday night. What do you take? What's your take on the game going in?
Listen, the Calgary Stampeders were a crappy football club the last couple of seasons. They snuck into the playoffs in 2023, didn't deserve to be in the playoffs, but Edmonton was really, really bad. Last year, they were the worst team in the league. DFL, as the kids say, dead freaking last. It wasn't good enough. So, the Calgary Stampeders didn't just do a reset. They blew it up, and they have rebuilt this team, and I think that is where the concern was at the start of the season, because there were 12 new starters on the defensive side of the ball, and even me, I'm sitting there. Okay, I may be a little biased because I do the Calgary Stampeders pre and post game show. I'm looking at the defense. I'm going, is this defense going to be good enough? This defense couldn't stop the run last year. How are they going to stop the run this year? But they have been a real pleasant surprise. Now, you throw out the Ottawa game because that was a bad weather game, and, of course, they lost their middle linebacker. That was a blow for the organization. That's why they went out and, they picked up Kyle Wilson from the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They signed, obviously Adam Bighill, who's not quite healthy, ready to go yet. But, they've solidified that middle linebacker position. The front four has been very good. Not getting a lot of sacks, but they have been able to close the door on the running game and the secondary. And you know what? It's probably a former Saskatchewan Rough Rider, a guy that really, has embraced himself in that Regina community, and that's Derek Moncrief. He's a good dude, and he's your Sam linebacker / DB. He has been one of the leaders back there, as well as Damon Webb. So it's a young secondary, but they've got that veteran presence with Damon Webb and Derek Moncrief, and right now they're the best defense in the Canadian Football League. And again, it's very, very early in the situation, but they're only averaging giving up like 20 points a game. So if that trend continues, you've got an offense led by Vernon Adams, and there's been lots of excitement around Big Play VA because, he does like to throw it up for those 50-50 balls. I think he's second in the league in big plays this year in the Canadian Football League. So there is some excitement, even though some injuries, just like, Saskatchewan has. This team has proven that they can beat some of the best. They knocked off the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, totally took the Bombers out of their game. And a lot of people are thinking, this Saskatchewan team could be vulnerable. I look at the lineup. I see a really, really good defense in Saskatchewan. I see a few injuries on the offensive side of the ball, not having Sean Bain hurts, not having, Sam Emelis hurts, hurts, from that perspective, Kean Schaefer-Baker. So if the Calgary Stampeders can hold A.J. Ouellette to less than 100 yards. I would make a bold prediction, and here I am saying this on Regina Radio. I would say the Stampeders beat the Saskatchewan Roughriders tomorrow night. But again, holding A.J. Ouellette to less than 100 yards is not an easy task.
You might have to hold A.J. or Kadeem Carey, who's going to be in the lineup to under 100.
Do you think Kadeem's going to play that much?
That's the thing, right? Hey, I've coached football for a long time. I played football. That's the one thing I always love in football. It's like, let them prepare for A, we're going to throw them B, right? That whole chess game a little bit. We'll see. The one thing that I'm curious to see, Jock, is big play VA. Does Dickinson just let him air it out? You know what? Especially early, let's test this Rider secondary. Tavon Campbell not going to be playing. Do they just let him go? Because the one thing that teams have done against the Riders for the most part this year is kind of picked apart that soft zone to an extent. I'm really curious how Dickinson attacks it.
Yeah, I would say, Dave Dickinson and whether it's himself or Pat Delmonico's doing most of the play calling this year, they do try to establish the run. And they've got a very good running back themselves in Dietrich Mills. So I still think that's going to be a big part of the game plan. Ultimately, if you don't have big success on first down yardage, then who is going to be your second down conversion guy? Reggie Bagleton is hurt, probably done for the season. The Stampeders do have some big targets, and they selected Damian Alford first overall. He's like 6'6". He's got the huge wingspan. He can go up and get the ball. Scored his first ever touchdown against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Going to make his first ever CFL start, this weekend because Clark Barnes is out with an injury. So that is going to be interesting. Tevin Jones, who was picked up from Edmonton last year, he has been very, very good on some of those big plays as well. You still have Jalen Philpott. Jalen Philpott is another great weapon. And Dominic Rhymes hasn't done much offensively this year, but I still believe that chemistry is building with VA. VA, hey, his nickname is Big Play for a reason. He's going to throw it up for those 50-50 balls, and as long as he doesn't make the mistakes, and he knows if he makes the mistakes and all of a sudden there's 2 or 3 interceptions going for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Stamps aren't going to win the game. So I do think that's going to be interesting, but no, I think you'll see a little bit of the run game obviously thrown in with some of those big plays that VA certainly likes to get involved in.
All right, Jock, and last one for you here as we wrap it up. If anyone's going to the last few days of the Stampede here, where should they be going if they're looking for some value? Maybe some cheap pints and some cheap food. Where's the go-to?
I'm not sure there is a cheap pint in the city of Calgary right now. Hey, listen, if you're there for the rodeo, if you're there, for the chuck wagons, you obviously go down to the grounds. If you're there for the music festival, the party tents, depending on your age demographic, there's Badlands, there's the Cowboys tent, there you name it. There's like 5 or 6 party tents that are certainly rocking and rolling. They had Oxford Stomp yesterday. My wife was rocking out to Pat Benatar. Like, she's in her 70s, for goodness sakes. And she was rocking out, and Tom Cochran was there as well. Listen, as I said earlier, there's not a lot of bargains because everything is expensive, but there is something, no matter if you're young or if you're old, you can always find some excitement at the Calgary Stampede.
Always a pleasure. It's going to be an interesting watch tomorrow. I'm sure you'll be glued to the TV, Stamps and Riders. Jock, it's always a pleasure. Let's do this again soon.
Anytime. Let's see what happens tomorrow night because I do think it's going to be a hell of a game. First place on the line, and you probably know this, the Stampeders are 7-1 in the regular season at that beautiful Mosaic Stadium. What are they? 10-1 in their last 11 visits to Saskatchewan. So for whatever reason, the Stampeders love playing in Regina.